I don't want to go anywhere. Shelling everywhere.
Look,
What's over the mountain? There's probably some kind of substantial base located there. Yes, right there. Significant fires are burning near Kerch, causing considerable concern.
Emergency. The Russian Federation is boiling. The drones are hitting again with all their might. The Rostov region has already crouched down. Shock video. The Kremlin has come up with excuses for its failures. Drones are being launched from border regions by saboteurs. A very hot season has begun in occupied Crimea. The dome didn't save them. The Main Intelligence Directorate destroyed an air defense base, a landing craft, and several other major high-value targets. Is it the end for the Crimean Bridge? More on this coming up. Watch until the end. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Darina Hatskalo, and here are the latest events. Drones have trapped Russia in a ring of hell. The entire north of Rostov region is under heavy fire. Milerovo has become the center of attention.
In Rostov, after the UAV attack, eyewitnesses are observing a fire. According to preliminary information, one of the targets of the attack was the military airfield in Milerovo. By the way, the 31st Fighter Aviation Regiment of the 1st Mixed Aviation Division is stationed here. Has it really ceased to exist?
Meanwhile, several public channels have confirmed that the good drones also struck the Erten fuel and lubricants depot.
NASA satellites are detecting a powerful fire at the fuel and lubricants depot.
However, the regional governor rather dryly reported on the achievements of the armed forces of Ukraine.
at night, our air defense forces repelled a UAV attack in the Milerovsky and Chortkovsky districts of the region. In Milerovo, a gasoline tank caught fire. Fire and rescue units are at work. No people were injured.
The Russian Ministry of Defense eventually admitted that they repelled an attack by 30 drones, which, by the way, also reached Saratov, Bryansk, Belgorod, Volgograd regions, and even the Crimean Peninsula. There's been real action going on there for the second day in a row.
Today it was loud in the Kerch region of Crimea. Reconnaissance is still ongoing. There was a powerful explosion and the Russians fired at our mosquitoes. We're talking about the Titan substation.
Local social media channels immediately reported loud explosions followed by fires.
Russian air defense fired in bursts at UAVs in the area of the Perekop rampart. After that, NASA's firm satellites detected fires in this area.
The day before, things were also unsettled. The occupiers are in a panic. After midnight, chaos engulfed Crimea. Social media exploded with reports of numerous strikes. No one expected such an attack.
Loud explosions over the past hour were heard in the Krasnoperekopsk district, Jankoy, Havardiske, and near the Starokrimsky training ground.
In the end, there was a significant strike in the mountains near Sudak. The Russians have switched back to whining mode.
I wouldn't want to go wherever we ultimately end up. There's shelling absolutely everywhere.
Look,
What's over there behind the mountain? There's probably some kind of base there. Yeah, there. Fires near Kerch. According to preliminary information, the strikes targeted Russian air defense positions. Meanwhile, traffic on the Crimean Bridge is paralyzed. Nearly 3,500 cars have formed a massive traffic jam. And on top of that, GUR drones did an excellent job, destroying important military facilities of the occupier.
Combat drones from the Special Unit Primary of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, GUR, successfully struck an enemy landing craft of Project 025T BK-16 and also destroyed Russian Nebo SVU radar, Podlet K1 radar, and a 90 series radar, 6L6E.
powerful roasting of the enemy in action. The occupiers are frightened, hastily hiding their expensive military assets in dome-shaped structures. However, it's all in vain. Our combat birds will reach them even there. The occupiers are truly terrified. It seems that what has long been talked about has begun. Locals are urgently looking for ways to obtain Ukrainian documents and leave the peninsula. They say there's little time left. We'll tell you what is known about this in the following report.
In temporarily occupied Crimea, the demand for Ukrainian documents has sharply increased. The reasons for this are said to be the war and restrictions on leaving for Ukrainian-controlled territory. One of the Crimean human rights activists, speaking anonymously, says the services are not cheap, but many Crimeans are forced to resort to them because they cannot personally apply to Ukrainian government institutions.
The Russians, taking into account the strikes on these military facilities that we're talking about, and not everything is always reported for certain reasons, are trying to find those people who are helping the defense forces. So, in particular, coming back to the defense forces, we clearly understand that in the process of addressing the Crimean issue, all components of the defense forces are involved, plus the underground movement and the partisan movement.
Now, notice boards in Crimea are filled with announcements offering services for registering marriages, births or deaths, issuing Ukrainian tax identification numbers, and delivering documents to or from Ukraine. However, the main thing in this matter is not to fall victim to scammers or Russian security service agents.
What should a local resident do, or how should they assess the situation, especially if they were a citizen of Ukraine before the illegal occupation in 2014? Well, first of all, I think many people could praise themselves and say how incredibly fortunate they are not to have thrown away their passport, because one way or another, the current geopolitical situation strongly suggests that certain complex issues, which will inevitably arise, including after the complete liberation of Ukrainian Crimea, or which require appropriate and timely decisions from our governmental authorities today, for example, the entire justice system as a fundamental structure or a crucial direction, need to be comprehensively resolved on the sovereign territory of Ukraine for many residents of Crimea. This is primarily because at the present moment Russian legislation is actively trying to impose itself and its legal framework on the Crimean Peninsula.
Experts note that the widespread interest in obtaining Ukrainian documents, as well as other events on the peninsula, indicate the persistence of a strong pro-Ukrainian orientation among the residents of the peninsula.
Take a comprehensive look at virtually any monitoring public page that meticulously describes the current situation in the region of Crimea, and you'll see that throughout the day, especially in the evening and at night, there are a lot of discussions about what is flying where. And it's clear that this is connected both to actions aimed at the demilitarization of Ukrainian Crimea on the territory of Crimea itself, and to the fulfillment of combat missions by the defense forces on the territory of the Russian Federation, particularly in the Rostov region, Krasnodar Krai or Stavropol Krai.
Ukrainian intelligence officers carried out an extremely successful operation during which they managed to obtain data from Russian document management systems. Over the course of 2 days, 100 terabytes of data were downloaded, including documents marked secret about Russian military facilities and logistical supply routes for Russian troops on the peninsula. After copying the valuable information, the cyber specialists of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine destroyed all data stored on the servers of regional and district government institutions, ministries, and agencies of the Russian authorities in Crimea.
Today, military operations are still actively and continuously ongoing in Crimea. These are carefully phased operations that very few people truly know about naturally, because this is highly sensitive combat work. These crucial operations are specifically intended to make our beloved Crimea significantly safer and considerably less militarized than it is currently today.
Despite the unhealthy attitude of the occupation authorities toward people who support Ukraine, Crimeans even try to go abroad with Ukrainian passports, which highlights their unwillingness to associate themselves with Russia in any way.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Meanwhile, in the swamps, there's a new form of entertainment. They've started searching for saboteurs in strange vehicles in the forests of Russia who supposedly launch fierce UAVs across their territory. It's from vehicles like these that drones are launched. So if you see such a vehicle, call the police. Thousands of Ukrainian drones are already in Russia. Traitors are nearby. What's most interesting is that Russians actually believe this nonsense. I've never once seen reports that UAVs are flying in from Ukrainian territory. On the contrary, everyone has long known that they're being launched from nearby areas, including the Moscow region and so on. A logical question arises. Why does Russia itself need this? Could it be that they're up to something again? It's simply to shift responsibility away from their own incompetent air defense crews and regional leaders, the go-lighters. After all, when something hits deep in the rear, they have to explain it somehow. So they make up stories about Ukrainian saboteurs, launches from the forest, and so on. Does this work on the Russians? Of course, the result is obvious. Still, in the end, it's nothing surprising. Brainwashing and total control are standard tactics of the Russian authorities, all in keeping with the best traditions of the Russian Federation. What has the dictator come up with this time? Don't miss it in the next segment.
In Russia, officials are no longer allowed to correspond wherever they want. Now, only in the right messenger app created by the state and, of course, under the watchful eye of the security services.
They really cracked down because, as we know, at least in Moscow, digitalization is quite advanced. There are surveillance cameras everywhere, facial recognition is widespread. You can even enter the metro through facial identification. It recognizes you and says, "Go ahead, comrade." The fare has been deducted from your account. This demonstrates a rather high level of control.
At first, it was about bans. WhatsApp was under suspicion. Telegram seemed like their own, but still aroused distrust. Because if something isn't under the Kremlin's direct control, it raises questions.
Svetlana, you can't read conversations on the old messengers. Yes, and of course, there are indeed many different and varied levels of sophisticated ways to effectively access, comprehend, and thoroughly read messages within that particular system or platform. It's very well known today that signals communications cannot be read at all, right? But with other communication platforms, given a certain level of technical capability, you can indeed access them, but it's practically impossible to do it across the board.
And now, please meet the highly anticipated messenger of this new era, already so extensively hyped up by numerous Russian bloggers. Of course, not for free, as you might expect.
Hi, I recently downloaded the Max app, and you know what? I was honestly amazed that this app even works in the parking lot. I talked on the phone for 2 hours straight, and the connection never dropped once.
Downloaded the Max app. It's better than Telegram.
Recently downloaded the Max Messenger.
Developed by the Ministry of Digital Development, controlled by the FSB, it's simply called Max. And yes, it's already mandatory for Russian officials.
Officials are being forced to use it so their correspondence can be read. That's all there is to it. So what else is there? What features are built in, for example? This messenger might actually scan everything on your phone, not just your messages, but everything else on the device as well. So we can conclude that the authorities don't have enough control yet. They want to strengthen it.
And believe me, Max is not just a messenger, because in Russia, nothing ever happens just like that. The app has access to the camera, microphone, geolocation, and other smartphone functions, and it also shows signs of being malicious software.
Whoever needs it will make use of it. First and foremost, of course, the security services who are responsible for monitoring internal affairs. That includes the FSB, the relevant police departments, and of course, the presidential administration, accounting and control. I was forced.
Officials have been ordered, so they will have to switch. Maybe they're not even thrilled about the idea of communicating in a messenger where someone higher up can read every word.
Of course, they can continue, but the thing is, we don't know the full functionality of this messenger. If it downloads the phone's data, then even if you keep communicating in other messengers, it will still get access to your phone's data. That's something you need to ask the tech guys about. Theoretically, that's possible, and that's exactly why they're introducing it. Otherwise, why the hell would they bother introducing it?
In an attempt to protect itself from external threats, Russia is sinking deeper and deeper into digital self-isolation. The question is, where will this tactic lead?
All of this shows that the current methods of control, even though it seems like there are already so many, are still not enough, so they keep coming up with more and more new laws, new messengers, new things, wanting to completely control people's thoughts, first those of officials and then everyone else. Well, as they say, we've already read all about this in the book 1984.
While the whole world is fighting for privacy, Russia is fighting for total control. The new Max Messenger isn't about communication, it's more about eavesdropping. The main thing is that everything complies with GOST standards. What should the next strike deep inside Russia be? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button under the video and stay up to date with the main news. There are almost 450,000 of us subscribers, and the number keeps growing. See you soon!